Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel for yet another Premier League preview, as Chelsea still haven't won a game. And tomorrow's game is so much of a must-win game. It's actually difficult to put into words. We'll get into it in more detail a little bit later. As you can see, I'm currently by myself. Both Pys and Charlie will join me very, very soon, hopefully. I think Charlie's still streaming on his own channel. Once he's done, he will join us. And Pys said he just ran into some problems. He'll be a few minutes. So I'm sure he'll be turning up very, very soon. But I thought, let me start by myself. Chat to you guys in the chat already. Ricky, Johnny, big up both of you. Appreciate you both tuning in. Appreciate everybody tuning in. But yeah, it's a massive game for us. And you wouldn't think so. Even 3 weeks ago, I wouldn't have thought, yeah, Luton, that would be a big game. Because even after the Liverpool game, we didn't necessarily think, Luton will be that massive, because we played pretty well against Liverpool. Obviously didn't win, but we could have won and arguably deserved to win. But against West Ham, that just put it down on everyone, didn't it? Like, all of us were just, I don't know, all of us were kind of just put in the mud a little bit, weren't we? Because, I mean, Enzo Fernandez missing a penalty. We go down a goal super early because we can't defend set pieces. Then Disasi has an absolute howler in the second half as well. And the whole team, like, we just did not play well in the second half, in my opinion. I know some people think we played all right, but not for me, man. Absolutely not. And I know our record at London Stadium away at West Ham has been poor for a long time anyway, so you can't necessarily say this is just a now issue or a Poch issue or a this squad issue. But still, Luton will not make it easy tomorrow at all. First of all, Friday night game, that's the first in a hot minute, but I don't mind it. Leaves the weekend available for other things, first and foremost. And if we do get a result, we can laugh at everyone after us that may not get a result. Problem is, if we don't get a result, then it's just miserable. But, let's hope we do get a result. But they definitely won't make it easy, will they? Because, I mean, we know there are issues we have at Stamford Bridge all the time anyway when teams park the bus. The pitch is quite small. Opponents will make it difficult. Opponents will get in the way. Opponents will sit deep. They'll be probably quite physical, play with long balls. Let's hope it works out, I guess. But, I mean, I am confident that we will win. But I was confident ahead of the West Ham game as well. Maybe false confidence in that sense. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it because I really need to see us win. I really need to see us. Well, I was going to say start a run, but obviously tomorrow we won't know if it starts a run or if it's just a win if we do win. But I really need to get a positive result. I really need us to, even if we don't play well, we need to win this game. I don't care if it's scrappy. I don't care if it's super easy. Obviously, it'd be better if we smashed them 4-0. Amazing. But what matters most is we need 3 points tomorrow. We need a win tomorrow because these stats, and I've tweeted them a couple of days ago. I mean, we haven't won in like 107 days. That was away at Bournemouth. We haven't won at home since March the 7th when we beat Dortmund. We haven't won at home in the league since like 3 days before that Dortmund game. But still, like since March, like it's mental. We need to win. But there is obviously also a lot of other stuff that we will and need to discuss today. Chelsea have made a new signing, David Washington, a Brazilian youngster. I very much doubt he will be part of the squad this season, but we'll talk about that. We'll have to wait and see. It is another signing nonetheless. Of course, as Taylor has just asked, how long is Mudryk out for? Mudryk did get injured in training, unfortunately. He's thankfully not going to be out for very long. According to Pochettino, it's going to be a few days. He should be back in training next week and then probably fit and available for the game next weekend. Actually, but we have a midweek game next week, don't we, against Wimbledon? So who knows whether Mudryk will be available for that game or not. I have no idea at this time. But yeah, it's thankfully not a long injury, but it's one more injury added to our countless and endless list of injuries, which is, I can't even put it into words how frustrating I find this. We'll talk about it more once Pys and Charlie have turned up, but it's super, super frustrating. Johnny says, Luton are a tidy team, in my opinion, who will find their footing in the league. Their style of play can definitely hurt us. Poch is right not to underestimate them. Absolutely. It's the Premier League. You should never underestimate anybody anymore. Like, the Premier League is not what it was 20 years ago, where you have the top 4, top 5, top 6 maybe, who beat everyone, essentially, because that's what it was back then. Let's not kid around the bush here. Nowadays, if you're not City, you can lose to everyone. And even City can lose to anyone. Very, very rarely happens. But we're Chelsea. We finished 12th last season. We haven't won a game this season. Anyone could beat us. Let's be honest now, right? But yeah, long list of injuries. We'll get into those as well. And a few other bits and bobs of transfer news. Could Romelu Lukaku actually play for Chelsea again? I bloody hope not. I bloody hope that. There was a report yesterday from Italy. We'll talk about it. I'll bring it up on screen later. They said Pochettino had or will have a talk with him to see if we can smoothen things out or whatever. Poch in the press conference today kind of said the opposite, where he's like, nope, nothing's changed, nothing's happened. But he did also not fully rule it out. But to me, he didn't fully rule it out in a sense of, well, if we can't find anyone to sell him to, then he might just be here. And then we'll need to see what we do with that, essentially. That's how I took it anyway. But I'll see what Charlie and Pice made of the situation, because it's interesting for sure. It's very, very interesting. Bring back R9. Everyone makes mistakes. No, absolutely no chance. Because everyone makes one mistake. Everyone makes two mistakes. But the problem with Lukaku is it wasn't one mistake. It wasn't two mistakes. I don't even have enough fingers and toes to count all the mistakes Lukaku has made since giving that interview. 2 months into Thomas Tuchel's into his second spell at Chelsea under Thomas Tuchel at the time. I can't even, there's not even enough. I don't think my whole building has enough fingers to count all these mistakes. It's an absolute joke. We talk about the interview, right? We talk about the aftermath of the interview, one of the most embarrassing apologies anyone has ever seen. Then we talk about the performances after, which he clearly couldn't be bothered to play, could he? Absolutely could not be bothered to play. Then he goes to Inter, says, oh yeah, I always wanted to come back, and you're my real love. And then he turns on Inter as well, which screws us out of money, because Inter would have probably, I don't know if they would have been able to afford him, but we would have been able to sort something out, I guess. And now we have this Juve situation who might force us to take flipping Vlahovic, who no one wants. But we're so desperate to get rid of Lukaku, we might have to take Vlahovic, which I bloody still hope doesn't happen. But then I'm stuck in the conundrum of what's worse, getting Vlahovic or keeping Lukaku? And I don't know. Both is terrible. Do you know what I mean? To me, absolute big no-no. Johnny says, I think it would be unwise to rule it out. Puts us in a very awkward situation trying to sell him when teams know we desperately want him out. I get that. But at the same time, we've kind of shown a lot in terms of how desperate, but not enough desperate we are in terms of that we didn't accept Juve's proposals for Vlahovic or the swap deal with Vlahovic. I guess it's because they want so much extra money. But for me, it's still quite simple. Either you figure out a way for Juve to pay up for you and actually pay a fee that we are fairly happy with without having to do Vlahovic. I know you need to sell Vlahovic, but they can sell him to someone else. Doesn't need to involve us, that, does it? Or Lukaku just accepts going to Saudi Arabia. It's not my problem, is it? It's not my money. I'm perfectly happy to put him in the reserves. People pretend it's just... Last season, we paid all of his wages. It's not like now, if he's stuck in the reserves, he will be stuck on his wages. Chances are we'd end up having to loan him out anyway. And none of these Italian clubs can afford even close to all of his wages. So it's an absolute piss take, quite frankly. Rather wait for Tony than keep Lukaku or get Vlahovic. The Tony thing, yeah, but you never know with Tony. Apparently, he's a Liverpool fan, so that's that. And he's also liked Arsenal, which I'm like, doesn't that contradict itself? Shows what a character he is, but the betting shows enough of that anyway. I didn't watch the whole podcast that he did with, what's his face? I forget his name. But that podcast Ivan Toney did, I've only seen clips. But he seemed very not understanding of the mistakes he's made with the whole betting thing. So that was a bit of a silly move, in my opinion. Vic says, fewer emotions, Laurenz, and you'll see a much clearer and more logical solution. If you cannot sell Lukaku, play him. No, I disagree, bro, because what happened this summer, all we've focused on this summer, essentially, was making sure we have players here that want to play for the club. That's what we mainly did this summer, right? We got rid of Havertz, we got rid of Mount, although that is questionable whether he wouldn't have wanted to be here. Whatever. We got rid of Hakim Ziyech, we got rid of Aubameyang, we got rid of so many players that clearly didn't want to be here anymore. And then you want to keep Lukaku? Then you could have kept so many of these other players who would have been in a much less desperate situation all summer, right? Once you start with Lukaku, who else is that going to start with? Are we going to keep Hudson-Odoi as well? Are we going to keep Kepa next year? Because, well, he's on loan now, but then, we can't get rid of him, so let's just keep him. And then play them. Is that the solution? It's not a solution to me. To me, a character like Lukaku is only going to cause issues. It's only going to cause problems, and it's going to do the opposite of what we need. Build a family vibe, build a cohesive unit of these young players. Now that we have these young players, build a cohesive unit between all of them and move forward as one. Be together. Actually create Chelsea Football Club again. Not Romelu Lukaku FC, because that's what it is. When Romelu Lukaku is here, it's Romelu Lukaku FC. It was that way at Inter. It will be that way at Juve if he ever goes there, and it was that way at Chelsea. That's just who he is. That's just what he's like. What can I say? But yeah, honestly, we've got to keep trusting Jackson. Absolutely. We absolutely got to keep trusting Jackson. But I do also understand the need and the problems, if he's injured, when he's at AFCON. We do then. Obviously, Broja is here and will be back. But what's that situation? I mean, Joe says, and Pice, I will bring you in a second. Joe says, I wondered how long it would take for you to bring up Kepa Laurenz. But you were talking about players that we loaned out. Lukaku was loaned out last season. Kepa is now loaned out. Just made an example. But fair enough. Fair enough. Pice, thank you for joining us. I hope you managed to sort out whatever problems you had. But first of all, how big of a game is this tomorrow? Because it's ridiculous to say that Luton at home is a big game. And it's ridiculous to say that Luton at home I'm kind of scared about. But I am, and it's massive. Because if tomorrow we don't win, and a draw isn't good enough either, I don't know what the reaction will be like. I think in the stadium it's still going to be okay, judging by what I've heard from people that were at the Liverpool game and the West Ham game. But online, my God, I think it's going to kick off. And we do not need that. We need a little bit, we need a bit of calmness to actually start to build. And all these bloody injuries aren't helping either, do they? But how big is tomorrow's game, as crazy as that sounds?
Yeah, good to be back on. It is a big game. It is a big game. And, it's crazy we're saying this third game into the season, but it's a big game because we need 3 points on the board. It's a big game because we've got a lot of injuries and we need players to step up. It's a big game because I think this will only be our third league win if we do win in 2023 at Stamford Bridge. So, Stamford Bridge is, Pochettino's got to try and make it, a fortress again. That he really does. He needs to make it a place where people don't want to come and take 3 points off us and feel confident. I feel like a lot of teams did last season. Luton are going to be very hard to beat, in my opinion. They're going to play, very, very sort of defensive, 5-back, long balls, set pieces. And to be honest with you, last game, I felt we dealt with set pieces really poorly. I felt like every time they had one, it was going to be a goal. So I'm a bit worried in that aspect. But, I fully expect us to control the game and hopefully get, the ball in the back of the net. That's what will be the most important. But yeah, it's definitely a big game. The reaction online is, always toxic. I mean, we could win 10 games in a row, lose 4-0, and everyone would be like, potch out. So, yeah, I mean, in the stadium, it's third game of the season, but you don't want to get 1 point from 9. I think that would be a terrible start.
Even
really,
2 points from 9, right?
Yeah. Draw. We have to win tomorrow. It's a must-win game, and in a lot of aspects. Obviously, doesn't define the season, but can really help us. I think getting a win on the board, and then going against Wimbledon, and then I think Forest. These games are must-win games. Bournemouth as well. We need to start putting a run together.
Yeah, exactly. And as timing loves it, Pice and Charlie managed to join almost at the same time. So Charlie, first of all, thank you for joining. I appreciate it very, very much. Charlie, as always, different background. You never know where Charlie's going to be.
Mate, it's because I'm not going to the game tomorrow because I've got a wedding down in Dorset, which doesn't really mean anything to anyone here. But I can't get back in time on Saturday morning in time for it to start. So I can't. To be fair though, as far as missing games go, Luton at home is probably the one I would have picked anyway. So it's not a complete disaster if you're going to miss a game. Luton at home is not a bad one to miss. But no, mate, thanks for having me as always. Pleasure to be here. We just need to get a win on the board. I don't even care if it's 1-0 and it goes in off Jackson's arse in the last minute. Don't care. Just get me the points. It
can be an own goal by their keeper. I don't give two shits.
Get the points on the board. We need to start winning. Look, there's been positives in the first 2 games, performance-wise. I know the results haven't. I don't think the results have indicated how well we've played at times, but ultimately, football's a results-based business, and no one goes, "Oh, they played all right there." You don't get points for that. You get points for winning the game. So we need a win. It's must win. The pressure's on us. There's no pressure on Luton at all. This is a cup final for them. No one's expecting them to get anything from this game. They can come out. They can play their stuff. We know they're going to sit deep behind the ball. And it's going to be on us to break them down. And we know that Chelsea aren't very good, particularly at home, at breaking teams down who put men behind the ball. So, look, I think we'll win, mate. I think we'll win, of course. I've got to say that. We can't be having a conversation here where we're thinking, shit, are Chelsea going to beat Luton at Stamford Bridge? Like, it's mad to think that conversation could even possibly be happening. But what I would say is that, mate, I think it's going to be harder than a lot of people are expecting. Like, I don't think it's going to be some sort of 5 or 6-0 walkover like you'd expect. Like you'd expect City to do. If Luton go to the Etihad, you'd expect City to win 6 or 7. Chelsea don't do that sort of 6 or 7. We might win 2-0 maybe. But to be fair, mate, I wouldn't even completely rule us out going 1-0 down.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Maybe from a corner in the first 7 minutes, like last week. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, Joel, in an ideal world, that is exactly what I would love. That was going to scream from the Bernabeu. And Ricky, what kind of life do you live? My guy's just watching streams while he's on a flight. Fair play to you, mate. Appreciate it.
Can you get Wi-Fi on planes these days?
Apparently, I thought only on long haul flights, but it was ridiculously expensive unless you're like in first class. So either Ricky is just sad, or America is just ahead of Europe again.
Who knows?
Yeah, who knows, mate. First of all, love the kit. Mine isn't here yet, but hopefully it will be soon. So I'm looking forward to that. Charlie, one quick question about last week's game, because I haven't really, well, obviously I've chatted to you in the group chat and stuff, but not directly in terms of on stream. What did you make of last week's game? Because Pys is kind of more positive about it. I'm not sure if that's changed since then, but at the time, at least, he was a bit more positive about it than I was in terms of how good / not good our performance was. Because to me, we played good from about half an hour to 45 minutes, maybe 20. Basically, the first half was very similar to Liverpool, just that it was against a much worse team. But then the second half, in my opinion, we weren't any good at all. Like, we didn't really create any chance in the second half. So that, to me, means, okay, we had 15, 20 good minutes of a 90-minute game against West Ham. That ain't enough. And that, to me, ain't enough to say it was a good game. Now, there was these 20 minutes were good, and I was happy with those. And we could have won the game had Enzo taken his penalty, in my opinion. But it just felt like same shit, different season. And it just felt like a repeat of so much that I experienced last season. Because I know Pys and a lot of others will say that isn't true, but to me, we had a lot of games where we played well, or fairly well, at least in patches of the games, but didn't manage to win because we missed the chance.
Certainly in first halves last season, we were quite good. You come out after the break, and then we'd forgotten how to play football, and that happened quite a lot last season. Do you remember? I was there last week at West Ham, and do you know what? We started slow, like we did against Liverpool. First 20 minutes or so, they were kind of all over us. It was annoying because you know what West Ham are going to do. Be careful from set plays, Ward-Prowse delivery, Agard, Zuma, Souček, big guys in the box. What do? Almost concede from the first corner. Second corner, free header, Chukwuemeka and Gallagher marking free space, not picking a man up. But from that point onwards, I thought we grew into the game. Sterling was very good. Enzo was very good in that first half as well. It's a great goal from Chukwuemeka. Yes, the game's totally different if Enzo scores that penalty right on half time, but he doesn't. But you're still in the game, and you finish the half as a dominant side. For me, I'm a bit concerned as to what happened when we came out at half time, because I don't know why the same intensity wasn't there. I don't know why the same, why we didn't play the same as we'd finished the half. Then you can't tell me Chukwuemeka coming off and Mudryk going on made a difference to how, that much of a difference to how we played. We got bullied at the back. I thought defensively we were shocking. Even in the first half, Chilwell was really shaky to start with. Disasi was shaky as well. Silva didn't have his best game, but he was the best of the three. And then for that second goal, we just get totally done, bullied by Antonio. Not just Chilwell, but Disasi was poor for that goal as well. But the biggest disappointment for me was when West Ham go down to 10, and you're thinking, right, you shouldn't really lose against 10 men, because you should always have one man over in every situation. And what you've got to do is, what they're going to do? They're going to sit all their men behind the ball. And what really disappointed me was how we hardly created any chances against 10 men. We didn't move the ball quickly. You've got to move the ball quickly, not allow them to get back into their defensive shape. And all we did was recycle possession and allow West Ham every time to get back into their defensive shape. And so I thought there were positives from the game, but the second half was negative. There's no two ways about it. The second half was a massive, massive disappointment. But I left that game feeling a lot calmer than I had after games last season, because from the good play that I've seen in both the games so far this season, I feel confident that this team will improve and it is getting better. It's just going to take time. But I've got to caveat that with the fact that it's a results-based business and we have to pick results up as quickly as possible. But look, it's disappointing we lost, but I'm not all doom and gloom about that game. There were some positives, but there were absolutely some negatives that have to be dealt with ASAP. And that second half was poor.
Yeah, no, I agree. I completely agree. Of course, it's not all doom and gloom yet. What I was trying to say is there was just things that reminded me of last season. That doesn't mean the whole thing is going to be like.
Oh yeah, season. No, I agree, mate. I agree. There were things that, like this, the second half for sure, reminded me a bit of last season. We just didn't turn up.
Exactly.
But look,
and the injuries. Chukwuemeka got injured. Now in training this week, Mudryk got injured. So
apparently it's only a couple of days though. So I wouldn't be surprised if we played against Wimbledon. But again, at the moment though, the club don't seem to be that keen on giving timeframes for injuries. They just they got this new thing they do on the website where they just list it as They just list it like I don't know. This is, mate. We've never done this before. Is this like an American sports thing? Do they do this in with NBA or NFL or things like that? Because we never used to get this.
Man, I couldn't tell you. I have no idea. I find it very odd as well because if you were saying okay, we're trying to inform our fans, in a way, I'd appreciate that. But there is no information here. If you want to inform the fans, tell us when they'll be back. But this is completely pointless, in my opinion.
Obviously we know about Nkunku and the long-term ones, but the other ones, there's nothing from the club on Reece, nothing on. I guess you find out the injury news anyway in the press conference if journalists actually bother to ask the question. It's a new thing.
Felix made the point on Twitter that he's like, "Why are we doing this? Why are we telling the opponents everyone that's injured?" And I'm like, "Well,
I guess they know anyway. Teams will know who's injured, and then they ask. The team news gets asked in the press conference anyway. Exactly. So you're gonna find out. So whether this goes out an hour before the press conference or whatever it is, does it really make that much difference?
Yeah, no, I agree in that sense. Felix was arguing, because obviously we knew yesterday or 2 days ago that Mudryk wasn't in training, but we didn't know. Did he miss it for whatever personal reasons? Maybe he had to do something, whatever, rather than training. That happens sometimes. Or is he injured? And now we found out that he's injured. Obviously, he was asked about it in the press conference anyway. But would he have been with the journalists? You never know. If we don't make it official first, do the journalists even ask? You never know. You absolutely never know. Badiashile is not back. He's back training, but not back playing. I don't know when he'll be back. A few weeks ago they were talking about they're aiming for him to be back for the third Prem game,
which would have been this one.
Which will be this one, but he's not. So
I wonder if he can play. If he's fit, even if it's from the bench, I wonder if he could get some minutes. I wonder if he'd be in the squad at all for Wimbledon. That's probably...
Well, mate, judging by the fact, and I guess we'll get to that in more detail later, that Romelu Lavia apparently needs a few weeks to be fit. After not being injured, I assume Badiashile won't play until December. If Lavia is fit all summer, and I know he did individual training and no proper preseason, but if he still needs a few weeks, then I can't expect Badiashile to be back before November.
In fairness, a few of those, most of the, 1 or at least 10 days of those weeks is international break. So I guess basically Lavia won't play tomorrow, he won't play against Wimbledon, he won't play against Forest, and he'll probably make his debut after the international break against Bournemouth.
Well, or he gets injured in international break. That would be our luck, wouldn't it? Because they will definitely play him. Belgium will definitely call him up, play him.
Belgium will play him, yeah.
Yeah, we've known about that. Belgium are playing not fit players all too well. But I guess we're on it already. Still, I'll take it to you, Pys. And I know you don't have an answer to this, but I need to ask the question like this anyway. Why are we always injury FC, bro? 9 injuries. I know Bettinelli is not that relevant, and even Chalobah at the moment, would he be used anyway? If he wasn't injured, he'd probably get sold. So that's the only change in that sense. And maybe we'd still have Lewis Hall if Chalobah didn't get injured. But 9 injuries again. Do I even have all of them on here now? Yeah, I'm missing Nkunku. It's just so frustrating. I tweeted this earlier. To me, so many players being injured and so many important players, like in Nkunku, in a way, in Mudryk, Reece James, Fofana. After last week, Chukwuemeka obviously getting that goal and then he's injured. It's so frustrating to me because you're like, we have these players, we have this squad, but we can't even get to see it. But it also means that when you then don't play well, you're kind of hesitant to be too critical because you also understand that, okay, well, if we had these players fit, they would probably be better. But because this is our 3rd or 4th season running now, where we have so many injuries. Now, obviously, it's very early and this stuff could clear up for the rest of the season. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But for now, it's still the 3rd or 4th season in a row we seem to be the only club in the whole league that have more than 5 injuries. And we don't have 6. No, we have 9. And last season it was like, what did I read? Since last season, we've had 57 different injuries. Or was it 97 even? Whatever, something crazy. Like, I don't want to sit here and say it's all the medical team's fault. Of course not. The medical team, it's their job, the rehabilitation, of course. So you can maybe talk about Reece James with them and maybe even Wesley Fofana with them because they've obviously had previous injuries and in a way got re-injured. Also, Chalobah picked up an injury in pre-season, was apparently fit again, got injured again. So I guess with those, you can question it. But the others, your Nkunku's, your Chukwuemeka in the game, I don't know about Mudryk, obviously. Badiashile, I guess. Broja obviously was that very unlucky injury. But why does it keep happening? Because, and also it seems like it's all the important players. Now, obviously, it's not Enzo, it's not yet Caicedo, it's not Thiago Silva, I suppose, and it's not Robert Sanchez, while we haven't even officially signed the backup goalkeeper. But it's still like Reece James and Nkunku, even Mudryk in a way, even though he's not getting used that regularly anyway. It's so frustrating to have all these guys out all the time, right?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's like if you look at the list there's like a few that are coming back, but there's still a lot of injuries. And this is why I don't necessarily think having such a small squad's a good idea. On the face of it is because we got one game a week, but with us, we might end up with too small a squad because everyone's injured. So I don't know why this keeps happening. Obviously, Pochettino said earlier that it's not because of training or anything. We're just a little bit unlucky, but I don't know, man. The high intensity training, these players obviously they weren't put through this last season, and I feel like maybe some of them weren't prepared for this. So some of them were contact injuries, but some I definitely think could be to do with the training that Pochettino's doing.
I mean, it may be the case, but obviously that you can't apply that for Chukwuemeka and Nkunku either, I guess. I mean, maybe for Mudryk, maybe even Reece James, I guess. But yeah, I hear you completely. And it's like, yes, some of these are back soon, but the ones that are back soon are, Badiashile, Bettinelli, and Broja. The other ones are not soon, are not back that soon. Well, Mudryk is back soon as well. But I don't know. It really gets to me. It really irks me. And every week I'm like, I wish Mudryk would start. And then when I'm like, okay, maybe he starts this week. No, doesn't start again because now he's injured. It's really, really annoying me. And I mean, Joel said it here. Losing Reece is massive. And yeah, it is. I mean, compare Liverpool last week to West Ham. Now, I know the first half in that 20-minute spell was still good. But in the grand scheme of things, imagine we had Reece. I reckon we win the game just by having Reece. And I don't even think Gusto was bad, but it's just different. The whole squad just rely on Reece way differently and way more than they do on Gusto. But Charlie, what's your thoughts on the injury situation? Like, I mean, we've sat here since last year and like, we need to do something about the medical team because obviously when the new ownership came in, they kind of ripped up the whole thing and got new medical staff in. Then that didn't work out. Then they rehired some people, but rehired some people that already worked for someone else. So then they fly them back to London once a week, every week. And then we had some extra people coming in and seemingly none of it really makes a difference. So are we just getting unlucky or what's happening? Because it's honestly, it's getting on my nerves.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? Because I understand that injuries are part and parcel of football. We get that. But the amount we're picking up, and it's not just the amount either, it's to the players that they're to, and it's the length of the injuries as well that is concerning. The vast majority of these injuries are all 1 month minimum. And that's
aside from Mudryk now, yeah.
Aside from Mudryk, yeah, they're all a month minimum, and that's like a month minimum to getting back to training. That's not necessarily a month back to playing. So you look at something like 6 weeks on Chukwuemeka, you're probably looking at 2 months, really, 8 weeks till he's playing again. If we're being realistic, you can add an extra week or two to that potentially. I think look, when it's this often, it's hard to not think it's more than just an unlucky coincidence. And maybe it could be, an unlucky coincidence. But when it happens so often, though, it's hard to. You sort of think, well, when it's happening so regularly, and as often as it's happening with us, maybe there's something more to it. But I think there's also a case that you can get far too over analytical on these things. And maybe we just are really unlucky at this point in time. There is that trail of thought as well, potentially. Again, the medical staff's not why these players are getting injured. It could be why some of them get re-injured if they're rushed back. Sure, we've definitely rushed players back in the past. Yeah. We all know that. Yeah. But medical staff aren't why new injuries are occurring. New injuries are occurring. You imagine players get injured, because just unlucky sometimes. You can fall in an awkward position or whatever it is, awkward landing to get injured. Not conditioned enough. Your body can't handle what you're trying to put it through or whatever. Or you on the receiving end of a shocking tackle and there's nothing you can do about it. There's always going to be a sort of a combination of those three things. So look, whilst it's frustrating and it's easy to chuck your toys out the pram and moan about the medical staff and the fitness staff or whatever, and maybe, I think, to be honest, mate, I just think we're bang unlucky right now. Yes, you could start going down rabbit holes on the medical team and the fitness staff and all that. But I think ultimately what it comes down to for me is we're just going for a really bad patch of luck in regards to injuries. And I think this will turn around at some point because this can't keep carrying on for time.
I mean, on the one hand, I agree. On the other hand, I'm like, I said this 2 years ago, and here we are.
No, mate, I hear it, but I just don't know. I just can't see how this is like a
permanent situation. Yeah,
more than just bad luck. I just think it's bad luck at this point in time because I don't think we've got we can moan about the medical team, but let's be honest. We're not going to have shit doctors and physios. There are going to be some of the best at their job in the world, you would imagine.
I mean, you would imagine, but, you would also imagine that our players are some of the best in the world and, how that's gone with
of course. I mean, I don't know, mate, is the answer. I just think it's probably a combination of we have in the past definitely rushed players back too quickly. That's certainly on the medical staff. Maybe we're not doing the rehab properly. That, again, could be on the fitness staff side of things. They'll be in charge of the rehab. I just think it's a combination of we're rushing players back. We have done. Maybe we're just not conditioned enough yet, or not used to.
That is a fair point. Obviously, there was all this talk about that last season we weren't fit enough. So maybe you're like the muscle injury to Chalobah. Maybe that could be explained in that way, right? Maybe even Badiashile's big muscle injury can be explained that way. But Mudryk, I mean, look at him. He isn't the guy that's not fit enough. Do you know what I mean? So you can't use that for the reason.
No,
and then Fofana, Reece actually has a muscle injury, but we all know that still all stems from the knee problems. But Nkunku, Fofana, Chalobah, Chukwuemeka, they're all and Broja, they're all like ligament issues, right? They're all contact injuries. So I mean, we don't know about Fofana, but because it happened in training. But yeah, I mean, I think Pies made a very interesting point a minute ago where he said about the squad size. So as a last question about the injury situation to you, Charlie, what would you make of that point? Because obviously in an ideal world, if you don't have loads and loads of injuries all the time, a 22, 23-man squad is good for a season without you.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's 25 if you include 3 goalkeepers, obviously 22 outfield players. Yeah. Look,
I think Poch was actually talking 23, including goalies.
Really? Or was he not just...
Unless his English was messing him up because he said including goalies or with goalies or whatever he said. But I don't know if he meant... Whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Question still is that smart, or because of our injury issues, should we plan to have a squad big enough to have injuries? Because you're kind of like, if you have a huge squad and then don't have injuries, that's a problem. But if you have a small squad and then you do have injuries, that's also a problem.
I mean, in theory, a 23-man squad or a 25-man squad, whatever it is, that should be a big enough squad to handle injuries. You've got 11 starters, and you name what? 9 on the bench these days. So what? 20 players. That's even with injuries, that should still be enough players. That should still be a big enough squad size to deal with it. Now, I get the point where you're thinking, right? Well, with our injury record and the way things have been going at the moment, would it be worth keeping a few more players around? I totally get that, but it's a tricky one because you do that and you don't pick any injuries up and you've just got players that aren't going to be involved every week, and you're going to have the situation potentially like last season where you're trying to keep players happy that just aren't going to play, and the squad is too big. Yeah. And for me, I'd rather have a squad that's too small than way too big. I think I agree. That's how I look at it.
One other problem that comes into it, I guess, is when you have a small squad, you can obviously always fill it when necessary with youth players. The problem is we have sold all of our good youth players. They are either already in the squad or we sold them, like Lewis Hall now, right? So I'm like, yeah, who, like, what? Okay, Burstow, sure. He'll do a job when you need him. But he's not going to be like Lewis Hall when you bring him in and he's one of our best players. Not going to be that way. So when you have a Lewis Hall to bring in, sure, then it's no problem. Use some kids from the academy and don't officially count them to the 23, 25-man squad. But when your best players aren't anywhere near good enough from the academy, aren't anywhere near good enough to actually play, then that's only semi-useful, really, isn't it? But yeah,
I mean, look, I can't sit here after last season and say we need a bigger squad.
No, I agree. I agree with that completely. It's obviously it's a mix, right? Like, because last season what we had like over 30 players in the squad, didn't we?
Yeah.
So there is an in between 23 and 30 plus. Like, you can't have 26. That's what I'm trying to say.
But you can only have 25-man squad for the Premier League anyway.
Yes, but excluding like counting certain youngsters and stuff like that, which you can add. But
yeah.
I don't know if we have any ones that would be counted into that bracket right now.
No, I don't know either.
Yeah, exactly. And then you see that is another thing. And then one of the players we do sign isn't available until September anyway. I mean, we didn't sign Olise, but that would have been the same too. I mean, someone in the chat said maybe it's not getting unlucky. Maybe we just sign super injury-prone players.
But you'd like to think though, when you're looking at signing players, you do check all that stuff.
I mean, we do, but we just don't care. I mean, we signed Madueke, and everyone knows he's completely injury prone. That's why he hasn't played yet. That's why I'm not even sure he'll start tomorrow, because he hasn't had preseason. And Poch just told us, well, Lavia needs a few weeks, so I assume Madueke needs a few weeks too.
Well, he did play 20 minutes against West Ham, so maybe.
But do you go from 20 to starting? I don't know. I don't
know. You could go 20 to 45.
Yeah, hopefully in an ideal world that would be the case. But yeah, thankfully Mudryk is now for too long. I'm not as confident as you, Charlie, that he'll play against Wimbledon, but I hope he'll be back.
No, maybe not.
Or is it
Forest next weekend probably.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, enough of the injury talk. Let's get to something more positive, but also slightly random. Not random that we didn't know about it already, but yeah, Chelsea have signed David Washington, who FotMob calls David De Sousa, so I'm a little bit confused now what his name is. But anyway, we've made a signing. Pys, thoughts? Will he be at all involved in the squad this season, or will he be shipped out on loan?
Just another one for the loan army, I think. Yeah. Didn't even tweet anything about it. Like, yeah. Who cares, really?
So young, yeah. Crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he's a striker, but then I will say, name me the last good Brazilian striker. Because you're going back to like flipping Ronaldo and Adriano to like
Gabriel Jesus.
Real good.
Jesus okay, yeah.
Gabriel Jesus.
Right. Yeah, but he's not a goal scoring striker though, is he?
He's not prolific, no.
No. But I mean, yeah, obviously Gabriel Jesus is a very good player, absolutely. I'm not sure. But in terms
Firmino.
of, sorry?
Firmino.
Yeah, Firmino.
Striker.
I'd be shocked. I'd be shocked if this guy featured in the squad this season.
Yeah. I mean, mate, I'll tell you now, I'll be shocked if he ever plays for us.
I wouldn't rule him out. I wouldn't rule out him being in the squad against Wimbledon. Possibly.
Yeah. Maybe. No way. He's just come to the country. No way.
Just on the bench.
It depends on how they rate him, right?
Because he's never going to play for us this season. He didn't even start for them.
No.
Yeah. But then, Burstow might start against Wimbledon. So then you're like, do you start Burstow? Do you start Washington?
Burstow.
You probably start Burstow.
Also, the Wimbledon game is literally on a day before deadline day. So
it's Wednesday, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, obviously, the depending on where we want to loan him to, certain markets are open for a little bit longer. But yeah, here we are. I don't really have too much to add to it. He seems to be quite talented. I've seen a few people say how Santos fans, obviously where we signed him from, seem to be quite annoyed that they let him go so early because he's quite good. But obviously, who knows how good he's actually going to end up being for us. But there's still a few other bits and bobs of news that we absolutely do need to talk about. I guess I can bring up this as well, so we see how much money we paid again for, someone who may or may not ever play for us. 16 million euros plus 4 million add-ons we're paying, with another player that gets a contract of up to 8 years. But yeah, loan to Strasbourg not guaranteed yet. David could stay. Decision soon, which is interesting. But I think it's the Strasbourg part is the reason that's not guaranteed yet is because there are limits with how many international loans you can make nowadays. And I think we have 1 left or 2 left. And
2 left internationals, yeah.
Exactly. And I still firmly believe that there is a possibility Lukaku ends up going out on loan again. So I do not believe that we will use up all of those a loan where almost all of the wages will be covered. But I just don't see us being able to sell him. And I don't personally see us keeping him, but we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, so maybe we'll just loan him to the Championship. But will a Championship side want him when he hasn't even started for Santos regularly? I don't know. So who knows how it's going to go. But another 20 million euros well invested. That is brilliant. But yeah, which is the next bit of news that I guess we should talk about first and foremost. I guess another bit of signing, even though this is obviously old. The Petrovic stuff is happening. 16 million euro deal again. The medical was apparently today. We haven't really spoken about it on here. Charlie, thoughts? Obviously, we've never.
Oh yeah, I think the medical got pushed back until like the end of this week. So there was a visa issue. So yeah, that deal should have been completed by now. It's been pushed back a little bit. But yeah, no, this will go through. I'll be honest, mate. Until we've been linked with him, I'd never heard of this guy. I don't watch the MLS. But you know, listening to a few people that do watch it. I mean, Brad Friedel, who obviously an American goalkeeper, knows the MLS quite well, said this guy is the best keeper in the MLS.
What does that mean, right?
Well, I don't know what that means because I don't know what the standard of goalkeeping's like there. But we've bought 2 keepers from there now, Slonina, and now this guy. And look, 23 years of age, it kind of fits the backup mold, not that much money. And he could be someone in a season or two's time that is ready to challenge Sanchez. And I think that's probably exactly what we're looking for. So until I see this guy play, I can't really make any further comments because everyone looks good in comps because obviously it's all their best bits and that. So yeah, look, I think it could be a smart bit of business. It's cheap. It solves the goalkeeping issue. I haven't really got too much more to add, mate, because I don't know anything else about him.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I'm the same, mate. Like, I don't know. I mean, I'll make the same point I made with Disasi at Monaco, even though people got at me when I said, well, if he's that good, why is he at 25 still at Monaco?
It's 23.
No, Petrovic is 23. Yeah. And I'll make the same point now. Why is he at New England at 23 if he's that good, right? Why isn't he someone better? But obviously that's simplifying it to an extreme point. I'm aware of that. But still, I think a question to be asked, you know, and so far, I say my point has been proven with the Zazi, but, you know, obviously time will tell how that one goes long term. But Pais, your thoughts? I saw a tweet of yours where you were saying like you were, I don't know what word exactly you used, but you're like basically more excited than you should be, essentially, is what you were saying. What makes you feel that way about Petrovic?
Just the element of the unknown. I've seen a lot of, you know, with respect, stat nerds who sort of, you know, have shared clips and reports of this guy. Seems like a very good shot stopper in particular. So yeah, I'm very excited to see him, to be honest. I said to Alex, I'm strangely excited because he's not really someone you think, oh, I'm really excited to see, but he could be someone that we get on a cheap deal and, you know, is almost like the next Mendy for us and has a ridiculous year or something. Year and a half, and hopefully goes on from there, really, because he's young enough. But yeah, I mean, it's just seen a lot of positive comments about him, really, from people who know way more than me on him. But
was any of them, other than Brad Friedel, not a Chelsea fan?
No, they weren't Chelsea fans. No, they were like stat accounts and general football scout accounts and that sort of thing.
As well, if you ask those stat accounts, they would tell you Kepa had a great save rate last season. So you never know with what these stats for goalies mean. Not to our fan base anyway. But yeah, let's see what he does when he's here. I don't really have a comment to make. I'm also not that bothered. I personally don't really believe in the hype that some people are saying he's going to challenge Sanchez. Don't believe it because I don't know. I don't believe it. I don't believe an MLS goalie would challenge Robert Sanchez, who everyone is trying to tell me is better than Kepa, which is not. But anyway, that's a different topic. We'll get to that nowhere. Never, hopefully, because I can't be bothered with it anymore. But yeah, let's talk about the big elephant in the room, shall we? Because this came out last night. When you tweeted this, Pykes, I nearly dropped my phone. I was like, excuse me, what's happening? But yeah, DiMarzio reported Pochettino would like to speak to Lukaku to see the feasibility of integrating him into this season's squad. Now, Poch obviously spoke about it in a press conference today where he basically said not the opposite, but more in the sense of, well, no, nothing has changed. I'm not gonna at the moment I haven't and won't speak to him. But I don't really know what to make of it. And the crazy thing is now I need to rely on Romelu Lukaku not wanting to be here to make sure he's not going to be here. But where do you stand on all this? Because obviously there is still a situation. He has an agreement with Juve. Juve want him, but Juve don't want to pay as much as we want, or rather Juve want him and then extra crazy amounts of money for Vlahovic, while we don't even want Vlahovic in the grand scheme of things. So what do you make of this? Do you at all? Because that was my initial instinct, and yeah, sure, this is more copium than anything else. I was like, maybe it's a media brief and we're trying to push, Juve to do a bit more to get him and either take the Vlahovic price down or just make a better offer that doesn't include Vlahovic or whatever and just say, okay, we'll take him for this and this, whatever. Because I think we'll be very happy to let him go for very cheap. I don't think we're struggling around with the transfer fee that we could or would want for Lukaku. But there was a little bit of hope with me where I'm like, maybe it's just a brief to push Juve to do a bit more. How do you see it?
I see it as a genuine possibility. He stays, to be honest with you. I really do. I don't see why it wouldn't be. I think the closer we get to the window, things could definitely happen. I mean, Pochettino even hinted today, you can't rule out anything. Klopp said in the past that if he spent 100 million on a midfielder, he wouldn't be in the football business, and then he bid 100 million for Caicedo. So, yeah, I think this would just typify Chelsea's last 2 or 3 years, or 2 or 3 windows. If this guy came back, I don't want him anywhere near the squad. I tweeted personally on my personal account. I said, weirdly enough, or funnily enough, Pochettino is one of the only managers in the world with his fitness regime and program that I could see getting anything out of him. But I do not want him near our squad. I think he's toxic. I think that's been proven in the past. He's a snake. You never know what he's going to do behind the scenes. And, we've got such a young squad and we don't need that attitude anywhere near us. So for me, you either literally force him to go to Saudi Arabia, but I think the club that were going to sign him signed Mitrovic, so their offer isn't on the table. Yeah. So you either sound out Saudi clubs and you literally force him to go there, which is a problem because you can't force players nowadays. Or you sell him to Juve and you do that Vlahovic swap. I don't see any other possibilities.
There's no way he's going to go on loan. Man United are idiots, right? Maybe we could talk them into taking him back because they kind of need a striker.
I mean, we've got to do something because my understanding has always been that Chelsea just have refused to loan him because they want him off the books. Unless someone's going to come in.
I read somewhere, I can't remember the source for this though, but somewhere someone said if it was a loan where all of his wages would be covered, we would be okay with that.
But who's going to do that? Who's going to do that? It's 325 grand a week. So
exactly.
That's the only way I see him going on loan. Maybe a loan with an obligation somewhere, but that hasn't come up yet. So I'm getting nervous, man. I'm getting really nervous because the more the less news that comes out about this guy. I mean, window ends 7 days? It's getting nervy times with this guy. We just need to get him out somehow, honestly.
Absolutely. And I mean, Texas says here they fair Poch if Lukaku has to come back in the squad. I don't know. It's different. It's not an easy situation for Chelsea, right? Poch doesn't want Vlahovic. We know that. Most of the ownership don't want, or directorship don't want Vlahovic. Some may do, but most of them don't. So, and that's really our only option because Lukaku ruined anything with Inter. So now Inter are out of the books. Lukaku says no to Saudi. We can't control that. And the only place he wants to go is Juve, who don't want to pay us anything. They just offer us a swap deal with Vlahovic, but adding on to that, crazy money. So I'm not sure, as much as I sometimes I'd love to jump on the train of blame the ownership and directorship. In this case, I think that's making it a bit simple because there's only so much control that they have. They only have so much control in what other clubs are willing to pay him or willing to take him. And you're only in so much control in where he is willing to go. But Charlie, I'm sure you saw this last night as well.
Yep.
I just said this to Pies as well. I nearly dropped my phone when I saw it because I was like, nah, please, no. For the love of God, please, no. But where do you stand on all this? Obviously, Pies just said what he said in terms of it could end up being the case that, well, he does stay, and then what do you do? But would you be so firm with it that, if we didn't manage to get rid of him, would you then still keep him in under 21s rather than including him into the squad? Because I know what you said, Pies, in terms of Poch is one of the only managers who can bring something out of him. And I understand your logic. But Poch's extreme fitness regime makes me think Lukaku's just going to cause issues again because the man isn't going to be fit enough. And therefore, he's going to cause trouble even in training because he's not going to run far enough, is he? Do you know what I mean? So, there's one way of looking at it is saying Poch will get him fit enough, but will he? Because Lukaku might just refuse to do it properly. Because that's the crazy thing. Lukaku wants to be here less than we want him to be here. And by we, I mean the club, not us fans. Which, in the one hand, is a saving grace. On the other hand, is also the part that's worrying me, because it's like, well, if he runs out of options and we're not completely opposed to it, then I'm already worried that he's going to end up being here again this season. And that's the last thing I want. But where do you stand on this, Charlie?
Well, at the end of the day, mate, it's all down to Lukaku. It's as simple as that. Right now, he's just not interested in having conversations with Poch. He's not interested in trying to reignite his Chelsea career. But what will be interesting is, like, if any moves fail to materialise the closer we get to the transfer window, and if the transfer window were to shut and he's still here, Saudi, we know, is open for another week, it could come to a point where he's like, right, what do I want to do? Do I want to go to Saudi, or do I want to sit and rot in the 21s? Now, he might think, obviously, Saudi, we'd rather go to Saudi than rot in the 21s. I think that's fair. He does want to go and play football. But he might also think, well, actually, maybe let's have a conversation with the manager. Let's see if there is any way back for me, potentially. And for me, if it's a case of Lukaku sits and rots in the 21s on 300 grand a week and doesn't play, versus let's try and get something out of him, and we can always send him back to the 21s if it doesn't work out, I wouldn't be against doing that, provided that Poch was happy with it, provided that Lukaku actually wanted to do that.
Poch won't be happy with it though, bro. Like, if he's forced, like, he's going to be forced to use him, basically. It's the same way with Vlahovic. Well, he doesn't want Vlahovic. I know he doesn't want Vlahovic. I know
he doesn't want Vlahovic, no. I mean,
but we might get him, or we might have to keep Lukaku, but that's not going to be what Poch wants.
No, but look, I think the important thing is, though, that this is not going to make any difference unless Lukaku actually decides that he might want to have a go again. Because otherwise, it's just all pure speculation at this point in time. And this stuff is bound to come out because we're, a week away from the window closing and he's still not gone yet. So you are going to start hearing these sorts of reports, because as the days wind down to the closing of the window and he's still here, then it's kind of natural to kind of link those two things together, that with the days counting down, the fact he's still here, there could be a way back. But I think Lukaku's made it very, very clear that he doesn't want a way back. It just depends whether he thinks that, can I go grovelling back to Chelsea and try and make a go of things? Is that better than going to Saudi for him? That I think is going to be what it comes down to. But I also wouldn't rule out, mate, in the last couple of days of the window, of some teams, whether it's a Roma potentially who maybe have been linked, or someone comes in with a loan for him because they know Chelsea are desperate to get rid of him. They might try and get him on a cheap deal, or a deal that doesn't really suit Chelsea. I wouldn't rule that out either. But ultimately, mate, I still think there's virtually zero chance of this happening in reality. That he stays.
So what do you think is most likely to happen? Obviously, you don't know, but
I think he goes. Whether it's Saudi,
like in what situation, to Saudi or to Juve, and we get Vlahovic. What
I think the most likely way of him going is either he takes Saudi, but for some reason, mate, I can't get this. I'm not convinced this Vlahovic thing's fully dead. I know right now it is, but give it a few more days. Give it 3-4 more days, and there's a couple of days left in the window. I wouldn't be surprised potentially if this was revisited. So for me, right now, if I was picking Saudi or the Vlahovic swap deal, I think the Vlahovic swap deal is more likely than Saudi.
I don't disagree. I don't want it to happen, but I
don't want it to happen either. But I think if you're asking me what's the most likely,
it's better than keeping Lukaku as well. Like, let's be honest. At least Vlahovic is young and can be molded.
Yeah, no, it's better than keeping.
On the
Lukaku.
one hand, yes, but on the other hand, you're paying even more then.
Yeah, it's true.
Keeping Lukaku, I know you're still paying his wages then, but you're not paying an extra 40 million though.
Yeah, I don't think it wouldn't be that though. Like, if we got
even if it's 25, right? It's still 25 million that we didn't have to spend if Lukaku wasn't such a ticket. But
no, it's true.
Yeah, I mean, RD says, and I know you said something similar on was it your private or your big Twitter? I don't know, Pies, but you said something along similar lines as well. If he scores 20 goals, people will forget everything that happened in the past. But RD,
Yeah, of course they will.
Him scoring 20 goals is about as likely as him curing cancer. Neither of those things is going to happen. So, I mean, if he scores 20 goals, yeah. And if I win the lottery tomorrow, I might not stream again. It's not going to happen, is it? Let's be honest here. But while I agree with you, if he did score 20 goals, the fans would forget about the past. But that's why our fan base is as bad as it is. Because that should not happen. That should not happen. There have to certain levels of disrespect to your football club should not be forgotten. And I think, personally, in my opinion, Lukaku did cross that line. But yeah, enough Lukaku talk. Let's see what happens. I guess at the moment it's difficult to judge. All we know for sure is that, well, we don't know. That's what we know for sure. But yeah, interestingly, we seem to actually be moving in the right direction in getting the sponsor done with Infinite Athlete.
Oh, mate, just a quick one. Sorry, on this, on Chelsea Dodgers, I think he's posted a picture, and there's an Infinite Athlete advertising board up at Stamford Bridge now, as in one of those advertising hoardings round the pitch.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I mean, I don't know if it's I'm not sure of it. I mean, I presume it's not a photoshopped image. I mean, it could be fake. I don't really know.
It could be, but it may not be. I feel like it would be. Sorry?
I said it looked real to me.
Yeah, it looks real to me as well. It's an interesting one. And I mean, I guess it fits the topic perfectly. The only weird bit I found about this, well, the information from Matt Law, is that I swear 2-3 weeks ago when this first came up, we thought it would be 50 million a year. And now they're all of a sudden talking 40 million a year. So what the flip is it then?
Was it in dollars though?
I don't think so. I thought it was in pounds. But
it was in pounds.
It was in pounds, was it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was supposed to be 50.
Yeah, exactly. So now the question is Matt Law waffling again, which does happen, or has something happened that it's 10 million less because maybe that was part of the...
Maybe that's the compromise or something.
Fair value, exactly. Yeah. Fair value thing. Maybe like we somehow got them to give us, like we got 40 million allowed, but didn't get 50 million allowed. Maybe it's one of those. But Pies, any more than what we see on screen here? Where do you stand on this? What is your level of information on this?
I don't really have anything. Yeah, I just thought I'd keep an eye on the third kit as well. I think it's potentially the second week of September, the third kit. So I'd keep
we haven't even announced the away kit yet.
Where's the away kit?
What's that?
We haven't even announced the away kit.
Yeah, well, that was supposed to be worn against West Ham, I think.
So Sky were doing a great job of leaking it multiple times. We never wore it.
Surely the club should be able to sue them over this, no? Like, surely we should be able to get some money out of Sky for this. Like
everyone knows what the away kit is. We've seen all the leaked pictures.
No, it's true, but that doesn't give Sky any the right to do this.
Well, we've not even launched the away kit. We've done no pictures of it or anything.
Mate, we're lucky we launched the home kit by now.
Yeah,
we only got the home kit on sale last week, man. Oh my days, it's a whole mess. But I mean, Charlie, in general, if it passes the Premier League stuff, I'm like, okay, happy with it. They pay us good money. It's a fairly good-looking logo. I'm all right with it.
I've got no problem with it. I mean, Pies, do you reckon this is just would this be a multi-year deal or just a one-year deal, and then we reassess with better options if we're back in the Champions League?
I think it's for more than 1 year because Matt Law said per year. So I think
true.
Yeah,
it's a fairly big deal as well. It's not like we're going to get that much more next year.
It's the same as what? It's the same as the 3 deal, isn't it? 3 was 40 mil a year.
Yeah. But obviously Chelsea want to, grow on that. So I think if we get Champions League or whatever, then maybe they'll
pay us more.
We have as much as this might get allowed from the Premier League, we all know, truthfully, this is a little bit dodgy. The company was literally created 12 days before the first rumors of a sponsorship deal came out, right? As much as there might be a merger of companies and they all have money and funds, I get that. But still, partly where our owners have their hands in those things. So we might just do a 40 million deal now. Next season, we're back in the Champions League. We'll renegotiate it officially, right? And also by then they might have more official revenue, and then Premier League might not be able to stop us from officially getting 60 million a year. I mean, I could imagine something like that, but I think we're probably going to have them on the shelf for a little while, personally. I don't know if people see that differently, but it makes sense, to me. We're all like about data driven. That's kind of what this company is about. We kind of have our hands in that company anyway. Why wouldn't it support itself? Hey, City do it, Newcastle do it. Why would we be the only idiots not to do it, in my opinion? If we can. But yeah, at the end of the day, if we get a sponsor soon, it's better, because I still think this is a bit of a shambles. It's nearly September. We don't have a sponsor done yet.
Mate, it's, to be honest, mate, I wonder because we know that obviously the sponsorless kit is like selling out all the time. Every time it comes back in stock, it's sold out again.
Yeah, on the Nike website is always available though.
Yeah, but they've probably got more stock than the mega store. Yeah. But what I was about to say is, mate, I wonder how many people are actually going to go and buy the sponsored version. I can't
because it's a pretty good looking sponsor. I think some will. But there was this talk that they might just give you the option, right, to get it with or without the sponsor.
No, I don't think. I think they because when I was in the shop, there's like stuff up saying that like you won't have an opportunity. Like when you buy a shirt, you can obviously take it back in and get like a name or number printed on the back or whatever. They were saying that you won't have an option to come in and get the sponsor printed on. You will have to buy it separately.
Yeah, no, I get that, but maybe they will always have ones without sponsored on sale and ones with the sponsor on sale.
Yeah.
I don't know. Arsenal are doing something similar, not the full kit, but like a version of their third kit they're selling as like a normal top.
You know what we do need to do whilst we're on kits, because I know Man United have done it, and I know Arsenal have done it. We need the logo to just be the lion without the thing around it. You know how the Arsenal third kit's just a cannon and then the United third kit's just the devil? We need to have one where it's just the lion without the Chelsea Football Club around it. I think that would look wicked.
Yeah, no, I agree. I would love that. For a third kit, I think we should be doing that.
Yeah, for the third kit, yeah.
Third kit, away kit, it doesn't have to be necessarily this season, but I want us to do that because I think it would look absolutely banging.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Pies, do you like to look of Infinite Athlete, the sponsor on it? I mean, I'd still probably prefer it to be gold and white, but then again, I guess with the Premier League numbers on the back, they are white, so then I guess the white sponsor doesn't look bad either. It's just in the cup where we'd have the gold numbers, but yeah, I think it looks quite good. And personally, I think the aesthetics of a sponsor are actually like I don't know what word I'm looking for, but like I put quite a bit of value on that in terms of, do I think it looks good, if that makes sense?
So sorry, what is the question?
Just like, do you think it looks good, the sponsor?
Yeah, I do. I quite like the logo. I mean, as long as the text is not too big, like if they don't like push it up and like, I don't know, like for me, I need to see it before I say it, but I've seen obviously like
if it's like this, I think it looks quite good.
Yeah, it does look quite nice, but obviously, like, how big do they make it? Like, how much do they push it up near the logo and the badge and that sort of thing? Like,
that's true.
What's the spacing like? That type of thing.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. But yeah, there you go. Another bit of news do we have here? Yes. Regarding Bradley Barcola, who I did speak to your expert a couple of weeks ago about, he did say he was a very good talent, but he didn't really think he was actually ready for Chelsea right now. So make of that what you will. It's a difficult one because compared to Brennan Johnson, I would much rather Bradley Barcola. But I don't really want Bradley Barcola either, if I'm being perfectly honest, because I'm like, well, once Nkunku is back, I know we need a backup to Madueke, sure, but once Nkunku is back, once Chukwuemeka is back, where will Barcola even play? And is this then worth it? Unless he's better than Madueke. Fair enough.
He wants PSG anyway.
Yeah. Well,
no, the deal's like basically collapsing, Fab said.
No, but what I mean is he wants to go there, is what I meant.
Oh, right, yeah. Well,
yeah. He wants PSG,
French.
But, he wanted PSG before we turned up with an interest, so you never know if that changes things, I guess.
I don't know that much about him. I know he was about to go on loan to the Swiss League, and then obviously he's come through the Lyon academy, and then he's kind of broken through at the back end of last season under Laurent Blanc. Great. Looks a prospect, but for me, we don't need another prospect. We need someone that can come in and make sort of an impact right now. And I'll be honest, Barcola, for me, I haven't watched a lot of him play, but he is not going to strike me as someone that's going to come in right now and make the impact required straight away.
No, he's literally had a breakout 6 months, literally now.
Yeah, so, exactly.
And the same time, Mudryk wasn't in two different situations.
I know that we'd obviously maybe prefer this guy over Brennan Johnson, but if we're talking about ability to make an impact, then it would make more sense purely on that standpoint to sign Brennan Johnson rather than this guy.
Does it? Because Brennan Johnson will cost even more, apparently.
No, but he's more experienced, knows the Premier League, and can also play multiple positions across the front line. But what I'm saying is, if we're purely going from an impact perspective, Brennan Johnson's in a better position to make an impact for Chelsea right now than this guy is.
I don't disagree. But I just think neither of them will make an impact. Even though I think Johnson, I agree with you, is more likely, but I don't think either of them would. And once the injury,
I agree on that as well. I agree on that point. But Mykhailo, just for me, he doesn't move the needle for what we need right now.
Exactly. Like, I'm not saying he's not talented. Obviously, we've all seen a few clips. He clearly has something about him, but it's not enough for me, man. It's not enough. And these are the signings that annoy me, because I'm like, okay, so you spend 150 million on Caicedo, you spend 60 million on Lavia, who are both are young, and especially Lavia, super talented and everything, similar age to Barcola as well. But Lavia is one of the best talents in his position. Barcola is not. What are we doing with him? Like, it's like Madueke, where I'm like, okay, get someone cheaper, fair enough, but don't overdo it. Like, if you're gonna get talents, fair enough, but then get the best talents, not some kind of a level or two below the best talents, because then what's the point in that? I don't see the point. You might as well use Omari Hutchinson then. You know, like I don't think we'll get either of those guys. I think in terms of attacking options, I think it's going to be someone that's name hasn't come out yet, because Doku's gone to City. Brennan Johnson and Barcola would prefers PSG, and then obviously Johnson. 50 million quid. We can definitely spend 50 million quid better elsewhere, in my opinion. So I really think this is going to be someone that we don't really know who it's going to be. Could be. Obviously,
and if we're looking at Leon
now, kudos to West Ham isn't fully done yet. I still think we should get on that, even though I understand that
do as well.
Problems.
Yeah. But I mean, if you're looking at Leon players, why would you not just look at Cherki instead?
I have looked at him
because he's crazy expensive.
No, I know we've looked at him, but what I mean is, why would you not push more on Cherki?
Because I
think he's just going to cost too much money. Pys, do you agree? Is that the reason?
No, I don't. I don't think it's money. I think it's because the fit. I don't think Poch rates his intensity and stuff.
Okay. That I always find to be interesting, because when you sign players super young, I'm like, if someone's 19, 20,
you can mold them.
Yeah, you can just teach them to run hard. Like, they're 19, 20, you know? If someone's 25 and they are hard workers, well, then they're never going to be. But
I mean, Pys, who do you think we're going to sign for this? Not necessarily centre forward, but who do you think we're going to sign for this kind of number 10/right wing position? Because the options that we've been linked with are kind of narrowing down now. I mean, who do you think it might be?
I'm just going to scream Felix now.
It's difficult to say, because, like, I think, like, it's just mixed messages as well, because, like, in the press conferences, Pochettino literally said today, like, if we sign someone who hasn't played in the Premier League or needs time to adapt, then it's going to be, you create a mess in the squad. So that's literally telling you, go and get me a Premier League player.
Does it mean Premier League player right now, or someone that has played in the league before?
You need to be realistic, Charlie. We're not going to sign anyone older than 25, so they're not going to have been in the Premier League and be somewhere else now.
Yeah,
he literally said, like, if they need time to adapt, it will create a mess in the squad. So, like, he's after someone that can come in and make an instant impact, which is not Barcola, which is not Brennan Johnson, which is not anyone really we've been linked to. But, like, you could even say that for Kudus. How can you say he's not going to take time to adapt? He plays in the Eredivisie. So
exactly. He could be like Ziyech and be dreadful.
I know he's a good player and stuff, but I don't know, man. It's really difficult. I think
it's still frustrating, because I had Alex Goldberg said to me, and I was like, Cherki or Barcola. He's like, well, Cherki could win a Ballon d'Or. Barcola can't. That's Alex. That's your expert's opinion on this. But honestly, I know, Pys, I wasn't in this camp 2 months ago. But now, with all the options gone, with all the injuries we have, I'd be perfectly happy getting João Felix. Honestly, I would be. On a cheap loan. I don't want a permanent move right now. But on a cheap loan, which I think would be possible, because he doesn't want to play for Atletico. They don't want him to play for them. So I think a cheap loan is very much possible. I think that's what we should do. Get João Felix on a cheap loan. If we then don't want him again next summer, we can let him go again. But for now, with the injuries, I think a cheap João Felix loan would be ideal. Especially on the basis of what Poch said, with knowing the league, knowing even the club.
I mean, he doesn't know the league that well, though, in fairness. I mean, for me, it's a no, but, like, I could understand I mean, look, it would seem strange to go back to that, given the first thing Poch did was made it very clear he didn't want Felix.
Of course, but that was before Nkunku got injured. While we had Nkunku, it made sense not to have Felix. And that makes sense, and I supported that decision 1,000,000%. But because of Nkunku's injury, because of Chukwuemeka's injury, and because of who else is available, I think João Felix, if a cheap loan is possible, does make sense. Now, if he's going to cost, again, like we paid 6 months for the 6-month loan he had with us, we paid 11 million and covered all of his wages. Now, if it's something like that and we pay 20 million on a loan fee and cover his wages, then obviously don't do it. That's ridiculous. But if you get him for either 10 million for the whole season or 5 million for the whole season, then I think it's worth doing, in my opinion. But very much depending on what the deal possibilities are, right? Like, I'm not just saying get Felix no matter what. If there's a good deal to be made, then I think it should be something that's considered. I disagree with that, Vic. I disagree with that. That he's not interested. He might want Barca, but Barca don't want him, and he doesn't want to be at Atletico. So, if he's not going Barca, he definitely prefers coming to Chelsea and staying at Atletico. That's for sure. But yeah, I mean, Pice, do you want to elaborate more why you want Felix?
I've said enough really about Felix on Twitter, but I think he'd link up really well with Jackson. I think he can play an inside forward role on either side. I think he can also play up front. I think he can play anywhere really in the forward line. I just think he's a really talented player, but I understand, some people would have reservations over, his laziness or not tracking back and stuff. Like, I understand he's not the best fit, but I still think he'd be quite a good fit with, with our other players in terms of link up play and movement and stuff like that. And he really liked his time at Chelsea. So I don't know why all our fans hate him when he literally likes the club. Like, don't you want players who like the club? I don't know, but
yeah, exactly.
I don't think it will happen though.
It's just too expensive and too much money for everything else we're doing right now. That's why, and he doesn't want a wage cut. Let's be honest now. So my reason for why I take it is simply because of the situation. But I agree with you. I don't understand why he gets hate. I don't get that.
It's going to be an interesting signing we're going to make, because Pochettino, again, press conference said, he's talking about, we need someone that's compatible with the other players when they come back from injury. And that was
exactly. That's why a loan for Felix, perfect, no?
But that's a Nebro. It was more like a
compatible after January then, because once Nkunku's back, Felix isn't even playing.
Yeah, for me, he was more talking someone that could start now, but then be a backup when the other guys come back. That's what, for me.
Yeah, I think I would agree, mate.
Or someone that's a winger but can also be used as a 10, and then because obviously on the right wing we only have Madueke out and out. Obviously, Sterling.
But we're even going to use a 10 now. He's not played 4-2-3-1 for the first 2 games. So
do we?
Well, officially he has.
I mean,
he called it that.
I mean, boys, do we reckon?
I'm not sure if you watched it, but I sent you the press conference clip. He says it's a 4-2-3-1. What can
I mean,
do we reckon though? Do we reckon it's obviously this goalkeeper's going to come? Do we reckon it's just one more signing? Do you think there's any chance that we get this 10/winger hybrid plus a centre forward, or we just think it's literally?
Yeah. No, I think it could be both.
Do you think two attackers could still be possible? A centre forward and this hybrid type?
Possible, yes. Yeah. Likely, no. If that's how I put it.
I would agree, because I don't know what forwards are out there for what we're looking to do.
Again, I think keep an eye on the Vlahovic swap deal.
That's the only one I would say that could be possible.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. I mean, HM, you can say all you want. If the manager says it's a 4-2-3-1, then I'm gonna go with what the manager that picks the team says, not what we think. Because I thought so too against Liverpool. Of course I did. We all did. But if the manager says it isn't, then I'm not gonna say no. The manager thinks it's a. You know what I mean? He fucking picks the formation. So if he says it's that, it's that. Sorry, JC, you better take that back right now. You're not mod for much longer. I tell you that.
Oh my god.
But yeah, no, Joe, we better not be. We better not be, because
no, he wouldn't. We wouldn't be. He won't play in England again.
Neither should he.
Well, certainly not for a number of years.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, if there was ever proof that he didn't do something, sure, but there isn't, because there's proof that he did it, and the case was just dropped, and people just seem to think that means not guilty. No, it doesn't. That means she got money, and I'm not going to comment too much more, but let's be honest, right? Doesn't mean he didn't do what he did. We all saw the pictures. We all heard the voices. Just use your brains, please, people, for the love of God. But anyway, yeah, let's see what happens with this attacking signing. Will it be Barcola? Will it be somebody else? Will it be, like Charlie said, someone that we haven't even been linked with yet? I'd hope so, but Who knows? Who knows? One last bit of news before we get into the team for tomorrow. For me, great news. I'm sure for other people too. But Armando Broja has returned to team training this afternoon, which was a couple of days ago, but still. He's back in training. Obviously not back to play yet. I don't think he'll be in the squad tomorrow. Probably not even against Wimbledon. Maybe after that, but I think it's more likely he's going to be back after the international break, personally. But I still find this whole thing a little bit weird, because I know the first part of preseason before we flew out to the US was basically purely fitness work, but he was part of that. Like, he trained with the whole rest of the squad. And then he didn't fly to America. And then he hasn't been in training until 2 days ago. So I don't know if he had a setback that we were never informed about, or what exactly happened here. Because how can he have been part of preseason at Cobham for 2 weeks and then not fly out and then not train?
Was he training on his own at Cobham, doing his own
I think he was pictured with the rest of the squad, but because maybe it was just mostly fitness and running, I guess maybe he could do that stuff.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why he was part of it. I don't know for sure. But sorry, I was just trying to follow up with the chat here. But anyway, I'm happy for this, but I don't think he's going to be involved for this week. So let's get talking about tomorrow's team, because bloody hell, it's going to be big. 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1, both options. Obviously the 3-5-2, but we're picking our team, not Poch's team. So 3-5-2 is getting absolutely straight in the bin. What would you pick, Charlie? 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1?
Yeah, I'd go 4-3-3.
Fair dues, Charlie. Pies, would you go with that as well, or would you prefer a 4-2-3-1?
4-2-3-1, but my team basically plays like a 4-3-3 anyway.
Yeah, so you're basically saying Gallagher's a 10 or attacking. It doesn't really make a difference in the grand scheme of things, does it?
It's kind of the 4-3-3 that I think they're going to go for can basically become a 4-2-3-1 very easily anyway.
Yeah, like this, it's anyway. You would have 1-6, 1 box-to-box 8, and 1 attacking 8. Like, you know, if you do it like this or like this, doesn't really make a difference. I leave it like this because I don't know. We don't really have any 10s, so why would we force the 10 situation if the only person we have to play there is Gallagher? So I wouldn't force this. I might as well use a 4-3-3, which we can maybe also use differently when Lavia is back or is available, shall we say. So let's go with a 4-3-3, even, you know, like Pai said, kind of a 4-3-3/4-3-1 that can be both, if that makes sense. So we don't need to have a conversation about the goalkeeper because Santos will be in goal. That is not up for debate. But what about the centre-backs? I'll start with you, Pies. Does Disasi keep his place? Because...
No. Cole and Silva for me.
Cole
needs to fix up, though, as well. I think he's been pretty poor, to be honest. Defensively, he's been pretty poor.
Yeah, I mean, it would help him if he would actually be allowed to play as a centre-back for once.
But, you know, I feel like he might do a same thing, you know, like he might do a back three again, because how like many set pieces and stuff and physical battles Luton are going to go, he's probably going to.
But bro, look at last week. That clearly didn't help them, did it?
You can't be setting up with a back three against Luton at home
because of their set piece strength. I mean, who are we?
You don't need to against Luton. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that centre back too that you picked, Pies. Absolutely.
I agree with that.
I mean, I agree with you, Pies, also that I think it might just be the same thing again at the back, but I really hope it isn't. Charlie, would you also go Cole Silva, or would you go?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and Disasi can just come in and play in the cup against Wimbledon.
Yeah, or not.
or not.
No, he obviously has to instead of Silva, while Badiashile and Chalobah unfit. But yeah, no, I agree. Fullbacks then. Are we going to play proper fullbacks, or are we going to get Chilwell on the wing again? Bloody hope not. So, Chilwell and Gusto, Charlie?
Yeah, it's the obvious choice.
Yeah, isn't it weird how like we have a £60 million left back on the bench, and he's one of the few players that hasn't even got a single second of game time yet?
No, he'll play against Wimbledon though.
Yeah, he probably will. To be fair, but probably in a back three. We'll probably play a back three against Wimbledon as well with Cucurella in the back three. I can see it coming already. But yeah, Pies, I assume you agree with Chile and Gusto in this formation?
Yeah, definitely.
There you go. It's not much up for debate. Charlie, what did you make of Malo Gusto last week, actually? I'm intrigued to hear.
I thought it was okay, mate. Thought he got forward well at times. It's some nice kind of link-up play with Sterling on occasions. Second half, he wasn't amazing. But as far as a full debut goes, I thought he was okay. Yeah,
there you go. I agree with that. Like, the kid's 20. He's played his... I mean, he debuted against Liverpool, but still, his first start in the Premier League at 20. You know, at a ground where we struggle at the best of times, let alone, you know, when we have all sorts of youngsters and debuts. So I think he did okay. But obviously, the more he will play, I think the better he will get, and the more he will be able to show what he can do going forward as well. I personally feel like he's also, because he was known for being super good attacking wise, but maybe having a few defensive issues. But then in preseason, he impressed us all with his defensive abilities. And I think, I'm not sure if this is a Poch thing, but maybe I think it's more of a personal thing. Is like, I want to make sure I do my job defensively, and then when I feel confident in that and in myself, then I will let the offensive stuff down, because I don't think what you want as a 20-year-old new guy in this team, you don't want to overcommit offensively and then cost your team a goal at the back, because that's the last thing you want. So I understand why he would be a bit hesitant going forward still. But yeah, Hafiz says Santos at 6. I mean, mate, I wouldn't even hate it, but he didn't even make the bench last week. So let's be realistic.
He'll play against. He might come on, but he'll definitely start against Wimbledon.
I think he'll be on the bench against Wimbledon. He won't even start against
Wimbledon. I think he has to start against Wimbledon, surely.
But he didn't even make the squad, unless Ugochukwu gets loaned out until then. Yeah. But if he doesn't, then he's be on the bench against Wimbledon. I don't think he'll start. But hey, who knows? I hope I'm wrong. I hope so, because I like Santos. But if you don't make the squad against West Ham on a 9-man squad and a 9-man bench, my hopes are rather slim. But the one positive news, not one, but one of the most positive news of today's press conference from Pochettino was that while Lavia isn't fit and will take a few more weeks to get fully ready and have conditioning, because he seemingly didn't have much of a preseason with Southampton, which I don't really understand. And there's a little something in me which is like slightly questioning Lavia's professionalism if he's so not fit. But I don't want to read things into things. Maybe just Poch is just very adamant in terms of, you need to be fully fit. But this is why I said earlier, Badiashile won't play until like October, November then. Because if Lavia is fit all summer and needs a few weeks to be fit enough, then what's Lavia going to be? Badiashile going to be like after injury? Same for Broja. Do you know what I mean? So, but yeah. Midfield 2 and midfield 3. Caicedo can start, so he better do. And I can only bloody hope it's going to be better than the debut, because Price, that was a nightmare. But do you agree he should start in this position? Whether it's a 4-2-3-1 or 4-3, doesn't matter. But as what the defensive most of the midfielders, because I really need him to start, and I need him to be better than in the last game, because that was a bit of a downer for all of us, wasn't it?
Yeah, terrible debut, but no, I back him to play well this game. I think he should start. I think the midfield 3 or the midfield 2 and the number 10 is pretty obvious as well. I think it'd be Enzo and Gallagher, to be honest.
There you go. Yeah, no, fair enough. I do agree. Charlie, Caicedo? Do you reckon Caicedo starts?
Yeah, 100%.
Do you think he will start as well, or do you agree with
Poch said he's ready to start. I think with the options we've got available, I think he definitely starts, mate. And then I think the 2 ahead of him pick themselves as well.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Caicedo, and then of course Enzo. He's literally the first name on the team sheet. Well, maybe Santos is, because we don't have another goalie yet. And I guess this one now has to be Gallagher. What did you make of Gallagher in the last game, Charlie? Because obviously against Liverpool, we were all super impressed by him.
Not as good. Yeah, not as good, but he wasn't terrible by any accounts. Obviously, the marking for the goal was piss poor for the Agard header. But actually, look, the performance wasn't as good as his performance against Liverpool was, but I actually thought he did all right, in fairness. He wasn't amazing, but he wasn't dreadful.
Yeah, I would probably put it similarly, I'll be honest. But yeah, Pies, I assume in this team, whether it's a 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3, you agree ahead of Caicedo, it's going to be Enzo and Gallagher?
I hope so. To be fair, I think get Gallagher closer to the goal. I think he's probably one of our only real goal threats right now. And I think he's been decent this season. So yeah, I'd play Gallagher and Enzo, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Can't really do too much else anyway. I mean, do we have anyone else available that could play any of these positions?
Not really, no.
No, I mean Ugochukwu, I guess. Santos, I guess.
You could. Yeah, I was going to say you could use Ugochukwu or Santos as one of the players, but doesn't really make sense. Yeah,
exactly.
That's the only other option, really.
I'm not sure where you got this quote from, Pies. Did you tweet it not long before we went live? You tweeted that Gallagher and Enzo are options for the 10. I'm not sure where. Because it's not the post embargo yet, so I was a little bit confused by how we got to this. But Enzo as a 10. I spoke to your expert about this the other week as well, because to me it's not it. Now, obviously, when you have injuries and you need to put him somewhere because you need things, whatever. No, unfortunately, we don't have a quiz, JC Filler. Maybe we'll need to get back on those this season. I haven't got Bertram to do them yet. Maybe we should. But to me, it's like, playing Enzo as the 10, then he's going to be with his back to goal all the time. And Enzo is at his best when he can see the game in front of him and spray the passes around. The 10 often can't do that as well. So that's why, to me, playing Enzo as a 10 is a bit like playing him as a 6. Yeah, he's going to be good. Yeah, he's going to have his great moments, but he's not going to be his very, very best. And I think his very best he is as an 8. So that's why I wouldn't personally pick him as a 10. But obviously, if necessary, he could do it. But would I rather Enzo as an 8 or Gallagher as an 8? Most definitely Enzo, right? If one of them had to be a 10. So I think it's pretty straightforward. But let's get to the front three then. I guess 2 of them are absolutely set in stone, which is obviously Nicolas Jackson, because again, we don't have anyone else available other than Mason Burstow. And of course, Raheem Sterling. I'm not putting Raheem Sterling down yet because we don't know what side he may or may not be playing on. Yeah, no problem, Charlie. I'll start with you, though, so you can get this out of the way. Where would you play Sterling? Which side? And who else would you play then? Because obviously the situation is, can we start Madueke or not?
I mean,
and if not, do you then play Maatsen on the wing? Or do you play Chilwell on the wing and change the left back? What do you then do?
I personally feel, for me, I would go Sterling on the left, Madueke on the right. I think Madueke is like, obviously with another week's training under his belt. I know it's not match fit necessarily, but he should be fit enough to play at least a half or 55, 60 minutes, you would have thought.
Yeah.
That's what I'd go with, but I wouldn't completely rule out Maatsen starting on the right-hand side potentially. I wouldn't completely rule that out either. Although what could be more likely, what could be more likely though, given what we've seen so far this season, I wouldn't rule out Sterling on the right and Chilwell playing left wing again. I don't think that can be entirely ruled out either. But for me personally, I'd go Sterling with Madueke. But if Madueke can't start, I would play Maatsen on that right side because I think he deserves an opportunity. Given,
would you go Maatsen on the right then, though, or keep Sterling on the right because Sterling was actually very good off the right?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think either or you can end up. They end up swapping during the game anyway. So I don't think it makes too much difference. But yeah, look, if Madueke is not fit to start, then I would stick Maatsen in there. But for me, I think that's the strongest available.
Yeah, no, I would agree. Before I take it to Pies, so I can just let you go, Charlie. First of all, everybody check out his channel. Link is down in the description. The Blue Brothers, or Blue Brothers CFC, I should say. Charlie, appreciate you very, very much for coming on. As always, have a good rest of your day, and we'll chat to you soon.
Nah, thanks. Cheers, boys. Sorry I couldn't stay to the end. I'll make sure I will be able to next time. But yeah, no, cheers, lads.
So good. Cheers. Take care.
Yeah.
Pies, would you agree with Charlie's front three, or do you just think because it's in quotation marks unlikely, I guess, that Madueke starts? Would you already from the get-go pick maybe Maatsen or whatever?
I mean, this is our team, and I had pretty much the same team as Charlie. So yeah, this was my team. This was my side. In terms of like the sides on the wingers, I think I've always think Sterling on the left, more goal threat, but Sterling on the right, just a better player in general, seems to take a lot more players on. It's a weird one for me. I always seem to see that with Chelsea and even Man City as well. I speak to a City fan quite a bit, and he was like, yeah, when he was on the right, he used to go to the byline and cross it, but when he was on the left, he used to make better movement and get more tap-ins and stuff like that. It was really weird, but yeah, I would go with the left for Sterling, Madueke on the right, but I don't think Madueke will start. I think it's unlikely, which makes me scared because I feel like he's not going to play Maatsen. He'll play Chilwell on the wing again. So
yeah, no. If you ask me what do I think the team will be, it will be exactly the same team as the last few weeks. And
bro, please don't do this.
Madueke is essentially replaced by Disasi. I think we're going to play this.
I don't want to watch this
4-2-3-1 or whatever, but.
At home, I don't want to watch this. Away, maybe. At home,
no. Even away, this is unacceptable in any situation, in my opinion. Because Paul Colwell, we have 2 left backs who cost 50 million plus, and he's playing Colwell at left back, like at left back, centre back, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter. But also, this doesn't allow Gusto to attack as much as he could otherwise. Like it's just a whole mess, in my opinion.
Shows how much he doesn't rate Cucurella as well.
Yeah. It does.
Said before.
Well, he's playing Colwell and he's trying to put Colwell in the team, but I guess he could leave out Disasi. But yeah, if Disasi plays again after that stink he had last week, then I'm already questioning any sort of meritocracy in this team under Mr.
I thought he was going to put Madueke centre back then.
No. I'm not. I've not gone mental yet.
Madueke centre back.
No, I've not gone mental yet. Even maybe a 4-2-3-1 doesn't matter. Leave it like this for now. But yeah, I would like to see this as well. We seem to all be in perfect agreement for this. I didn't ask Charlie for it, but Pice, what do you reckon? Do we win tomorrow? Does Jackson get a goal tomorrow? What you saying? Score prediction, maybe goal scorers as well.
I'm gonna go 2-1 Chelsea. I think Luton gets some sort of scrappy set piece goal. I think Sterling gets a goal. He's on good form. I think he'll get a goal, and I think a defender will score a header. I'd like Jackson to get a goal, but I just don't know if he's going to get the chances with how Luton are going to defend. I don't know if there's going to be
type of striker
spaces.
he is, right?
Yeah, but to be fair though, he makes really good movements. So it just depends on if we actually get him at the right time in behind and that sort of thing. I'm not sure, but yeah, I'll go with that because if I go like 3-0 Jackson brace, it's just not going to happen, is it? So I'll try something different.
Exactly. I can't remember. I think I said like 2-1 for the last 2 games, and it never came off, did it? So I'm gonna. No, I said 2-0 against West Ham actually. Yeah. Every time I sit here and I think about a score prediction, I'm like, surely it just has to come good now, because preseason was good. Just do what we did in preseason, Poch. I know we don't have all the same players available anymore due to injuries, but just do that. Stop with your Chilwell at left wing. Stop with your Disasi at centre back. Stop with these silly things. Stop with your Colbert at left back or whatever, left back, left centre back that does both at the same time. It's a mess. It's a big mess. But I'm gonna go for it again. What I did last week, and think maybe at some point it comes true. I'm gonna say 2-0. I'm gonna say 2-0 because we need that win. Oh boy, do we need that win. But yeah, otherwise I don't really know what else we can add. Quite frankly, all we need is a win. So let's hope we get it. And yeah, I think we're going to leave it at that. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already and I haven't told you at all yet, please be sure to subscribe. That'd be massively appreciated. Every new subscriber counts. We're still on the road to 20,000 subscribers. The growth recently has been pretty good. So get subscribed if you haven't already. Hit that like button on your way out. Let's get to at least 100 let's get to 100 likes, considering it's a preview. Let's get to 100 likes. All of you, go down below, hit that like button for me on your way out. It doesn't cost you any money, barely any time. And it really helps me out spreading these videos out to more stream. And of course, shout out to Pice for coming back on. Check out his website, londonsfirst.com. Check out his Twitter, CFCPys, as you can obviously see on screen. And as you probably all know him on as anyway. So please do that. That'd be massively appreciated. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Up the Chelsea, upwards and onwards. And we'll see you next time.